here. All right, what's going on, everybody? I do believe we are live. We got little Chris again joined with Demetrius from MN Pool Bootcamp. First and foremost, if it is January 1st, 2021, where you're at, Happy New Year. As of right now, it is only 9 p.m. Central Standard Time where we're at, so we've got 3 more hours before we ring in the new year. So, before we get to ring in the new year, we're going to see how a 614 Fargo rating can stand up to an instructor at 726 Fargo rating. So, place your bets and let's see who's going to win. We're pretty much going to do a race to 9 in 10 ball. And then I think after that, we're just going to hang out with everybody, win, lose, or draw. And then if you guys want us to try to maybe demonstrate some stuff, I'm pretty sure we're going to be more than happy to. Demetrius, are you ready?
I think I'm ready to go. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and glad you're sharing this evening with us. We should have a lot of fun.
All right, let's get it going. First break. So do me a favor, guys, and let me know how the audio sounds, because we are using my laptop as the microphone, which is going to be in one stationary location. So obviously, the further away we are from the laptop, the less audio you're going to hear, and the closer we are to the laptop, the more audio that you're going to hear. But how does it sound? Commentator JR, we are not wearing shoes. We are on some comfy carpet down here in this basement. Audio sounds great? Okay, well then, you're not going to hear any commentator from us, so just enjoy the match. Great defensive shot. Well, you couldn't really expect any less from that, could y'all, folks? Nice out, Demetrius. No. Yeah, just 9 ball with 10, or 10 ball with 9 ball rules. keep it a little casual. case anybody's wondering, I am trying to apply the things I've already learned since I've been out here. It's not like I see it. We have a total of 169 viewers tonight. Thanks everybody for being here. Nice hit. Ooh, beautiful. Frozen. Great recovery shot on the 6. All right, so I think it's 3-2 in Demetrius' favor. Everybody enjoying this? And don't worry, when this whole thing is over, we're going to be as talkative as can be. I'm just trying to make sure we put on a good match for everybody. Okay, for those that have just joined here, this is a race to 9, and Demetrius is currently up 4-2. Beautifully done. Well, there's nothing much I can do if I can't shoot. Score is currently 5-2. Demetrius has the lead. Well, 2 racks in a row I haven't been able to shoot. This is a 2-player game. Beautiful one. Oh. All part of the game. Good shot. All right, Demetrius is on the hill. I had a couple of chances to maybe win 2 or 3 racks, but I didn't make it. there you have it, everybody. Good match, Demetrius. I've been destroyed 9-2. But that isn't the first time y'all have seen me be destroyed 9-2. I think when I was in the Texas State Open, my first match against a pro was 9-1. But I did what I could.
I think doubled your production.
Yeah. I think at least besides your 2 breaking runs, I think I had maybe at least 2 or 3 valiant efforts to take some racks. But
well, I mean, it's all right. So it's a tough game, man. And for those watching, I mean, it's funny. We both started strong and weak. And what I mean by that is, like, I ran out the first rack real well. I mean, very crisp. And then we grappled on the 1 ball, the second rack, and you got the shot, and you ran out a tougher rack, including that bank on that 6 ball.
Yeah.
And so you really, and so what's funny, so I feel like we both started strong, but then it was still settling in, a little jittery. And so then we kind of had a few fumbles, and we had that real long game that we kept tying up them balls. And
I tried to 3-foul you.
But then, so it's hard, though, because at some point I kind of settled in. Oh, here, I'm sorry. Yeah, at some point I kind of settled in, and then once I settled in, I started running out a bit. And what happens, is that it makes it hard for you when you're not getting many opportunities, or when I'm putting racks together. It's hard to play out of the chair against the guy that's playing well. And so for those that don't know, I've been playing with Chris now for a few days. We've been training and sparring and playing, all this stuff. And I've had a chance to watch him play, and how he played that first rack where he ran out with that long rail bank on the 6. He's been playing like that for 2 days. And if he did have a couple chances that got away, that's really a testament. And I'm not complimenting myself like, oh, that's because I played so good, I broke him down. It's not like that. It's just anytime that's just shows when you're on a stream, when you're playing in a pressure situation, when you're not getting many shots, when your opponent's playing well, it's very, very difficult. And it's a lot different than playing, on your practice table where you get ball in hand every rack and as many chances as you want. It's very, very tough. And you played real well in the beginning, and then just really didn't get a lot of chances. And so nothing wrong with that. I've been on the flip side of that a million times, so totally fine. But it was a fun set, man.
I mean, I still enjoyed it, and just like I said, if you're wondering if the boot camp or taking the boot camp is worth it, I mean, can y'all not admit how beautiful it is to watch that cue ball transition from one shot to the next? There's like a couple of shots. I think you had the 6 ball on the long rail, and the way you transitioned from the 6 to come all the way out was just amazing. It was just freaking beautiful.
Thank you. That was really tough. You left me on the rail on that 3 ball, and I had to use outside English off the rail on the 3, and then I had to use outside English off the rail on the 4 ball because I went back and forth, and I had to spin through the gap between the 10 and the side, which was like a hairline gap, and then to get past the side pocket. And using spin off the rail is not easy. And then I had to leg that 5, and I used that high inside 3-railer to kind of come up on that 7-9 combo, and then it's but that's. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I work really hard, and I've learned, how to move my cue ball around accurately. Even that last rack, I had to play that combo, shoot the 2 in the corner, and then slide past the 3. And you'll notice I barely missed the 3 coming off that rail.
And I saw in the chat people thought you were going to play for the bank on the 3.
And I slid just past it, just past it, and got far enough past it to where I was able to crawl across side with that back and forth throw shot we worked on, and then got really good on the 5, and then started my way through and used that wagon wheel, side spin wagon wheel to get on the 10. So anyway, I'm really proud of all that, and I've also because that's taken a lot of work. And so what I do is I basically I work on cue ball, I work on patterns. So for those that wonder what I teach, that's it. That's kind of my strengths is my cue ball and my patterns, and a lot of people can get better when they learn how to play this game from shot to shot. And Chris already played like that when he came here, by the way, and so he's a very good player. We're just brainstorming, and he's helping me, I'm helping him, and we're fine-tuning a few things, and it's really fun to spend time with him, man. We have Chris and I think we have very like minds as to how we approach this game in terms of like minimal, not just minimal cue ball movement, but in terms of making the game easy and finding every edge and ways to, all the percentages and find ways to improve consistency. I think we both do that real. That's kind of a focus for both of us.
I would agree with that, but there's no contest on you do it better. I mean, and that's what I'm trying to pull off of you to be able to take what you can do and try to add it to my game. No different than any knowledge that any of y'all are able to take from me and add to your game. I mean, we can't deny ourselves that there's this hierarchy structure of where you're at, who's below you, and who's above you, and how the hierarchy structure changes from bit to bit, where those that are below you can eventually match up with you, maybe go past you, and et cetera, et cetera. As long as everybody's willing to share the information, like how you're willing to share, how I'm willing to share. So I take away everything I could take from this, as much as you're watching me to analyze me so we can talk about it afterwards, and just as much as I'm watching you to try to absorb what I see you doing, because I have to figure out, when I saw you transition from that 6, I have to figure out, what did you actually do? Obviously you had some right spin, but where exactly was your right spin? Where exactly was your tip on the vertical axis of the cue ball? And then, of course, what you've already said to me before about how sometimes my shots are not, I guess, full with my stroke, because I will actually let up at the last second, which is not the same meaning as hit the ball harder. Just make sure that I don't hesitate before I actually make contact with the cue ball. So all those things are the things I'm taking home with, plus what we still haven't even covered yet. So I'm definitely excited for that.
Although tomorrow was supposed to be safety and kicking day, and after we grappled, man, you had me on the roll too. I was on my back, so maybe I'll come out the better on that deal. So.
There was one question I saw during the course of the match, so I'm going to try to address some of the questions that I saw. So if you want them answered, go ahead and start retyping them again. But someone was wondering, everybody loved your break. They were complimenting your break, but then some people were wondering, what do you think of my break in regards to trying it out for yourself, or let alone how your break has transitioned from anybody that might have seen you in the VG10 tournament, where your break was literally killing you, and I think some people might have seen that and they see a huge difference.
So I'll tell you, one of the things there's really why I love training pool, playing pool, is there's no better feeling than developing a skill that used to be kind of gobbledygook and then putting it together where it's not necessarily a strength, but at least it's competent, or it's practical, functional, effective, I should say. And so there's been a few shots, and I'm just going to pipe in on one. One of the shots that I'm most proud of is when I overran my position from the 8 to the 10, and I had to cut that 10 on the side.
Oh, yeah, everybody went nuts over that shot.
Now, for those that don't know, I showed you a video of a set that I played where I missed that 10 ball at the side. Then remember I overran the 9 to the 10, I missed the same 10. So since I missed that 10 ball in a practice set about a month ago, I have set up and practiced this shot with the 10 ball in the rack, because that's where it always is. And I practiced, there's a dot where I place right here, and then right over here. And I've practiced this shot 10 times each way until I make it 10 times each way, probably 5 days a week for the last 3 weeks. I've been practicing that shot. And so, because I know that these side pockets, these blind side pockets, are not one of my favorites, but when you overrun your shape, that's the money ball shot. So anyway, I've worked really hard on that, and not just visualizing it, but connecting with it, feeling good on that shot. And so when it came up, and I barely made it, but when I came up, whether I made it or missed, and I just wanted to hit it like I've been practicing, and then it happened to go in, and man, there's almost no better feeling. There's almost no better feeling.
Absolutely.
And so on that note, getting back to the break, I have struggled with the break shot my whole life. I've spent many, many years and many, many hours practicing my break, and I have had a very ineffective break. And one of the problems, one of the reasons for that is because I play after the break well enough to where in my local area, when I was playing tournaments between like 2006 and 2012, when I could play locally, I was able to kind of dominate local competition just by converting at a high rate after the break. And then what happened is I started playing more and more professional tournaments, and you can't just wait for people to give you chances, and that break started to really hold me back. And so it's caused me more pain, and people that have heard me on the Q&A know how much pain it's caused me. It's not just important, it's career defining. Like the break is not just important, it's career defining. So to have anyone say anything positive about my break, whether I even agree with it or not, it's like, it's kind of like that 10 ball. It feels really good. And to be able to break, not great, but effectively enough to make balls, come up with shots, and put a few racks together. I mean, that 2-rack run in the middle of the set, I was up 3-2, and I missed a shot on the 5, and you missed it back. So I went up 4-2, and then I was able to put 2 racks behind it. And going up 6-2 at that point kind of seals the deal on that set. I mean, not really, because you're capable of coming back. But, I go from being a favorite, up 4-2, to being kind of I'm probably 90-10, or maybe 85-15 from there. You know what I mean in terms of score. And
Right.
so that break was able to, and then it takes so much pressure off me once I get a 4-game lead and I'm flowing. So it's like that break was a pivotal part of that set. And so thank you. And to answer the question about would I break like Chris, yeah, I think you have to develop different breaks and find what's effective. So there are times with a magic rack on fast cloth where breaking between 16 and 18 miles an hour with a really, smooth, flat cue ball and just a nice drift is going to be the most effective break. There's times when breaking, 21 miles an hour is going to be the best break. And so I feel like you have to have both. I think you should develop both and then use what works. I think if you only have one break and you're stubborn and you just go to the death with it and it's not working, that's not ideal. But at the same time, so if you always want to hit them hard. And then one last comment, I've been going on about this for a while. What has improved my break? I've made 2 adjustments that have helped my break. One is I'm standing up a little higher. I used to get real low and then try to lift as I broke, like like Shane and Tyler. I can't do that; it throws me off. So I just go ahead and stand about 6 inches higher than I used to, and I just stand, and that way I don't only have to move my body and head when I break. I just start where I'm going to finish, and it helps me sight better. It helps me not move my body around as much. So that helped. And then the other thing is timing, and this is probably the most important thing. I spent probably in 15 years, if there's one lesson that took me 15 years to learn, it's I was trying to hit them too hard. Mm-hmm. And that even when you want to hit them hard, it's about timing. It's about starting that swing soft, accelerating, and not using muscle, but just letting it swing. And so my advice to anybody that wants to improve their break would be, and I know I heard this and I read it and I saw people like little Chris, telling me this, but I was like, but I want to have the break like Shane. And it was like, I just wanted it so bad. I thought I could will it to happen. But in the end, the best, there's the saying in the Marines or the military is like, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. Mm-hmm. And they say, like, when you do something slowly, you're going to be smooth. And when you do something smooth, that's the fastest speed. Like if you're in a battle and you want to reload a gun, if you try to rush, you're going to fumble around and drop stuff. And, but if you just go smooth, that's the fastest speed you can do something effectively and calmly. And then it turns out that's actually the fastest speed you can go. And I feel that way with the break. Slow is smooth, and then smooth is powerful and fast.
Gotcha. So actually someone noticed something that we talked about the other day, and they want to know about during your practice strokes, because I've already let the viewers know about how you have a teaspoon grip, but someone did notice your flick. Can you tell the same story of what your flick is during your practice stroke?
Yeah, so 2 parts to this. One is I used to use wooden shafts, and I used them for a long time, and so they'd warp and they'd sand unevenly, and so what would happen is when I moved the cue around with my fingers, the cue tip would make little circles, and I'd have to wiggle it until the tip was kind of set the right way. Now I've gone to a Revo shaft, and the reason why I went to carbon fiber is not because they hit me better, but just because they don't warp, but yet that old habit is still there. The other part of the answer is that I grew up playing pool in the 90s, which means, one, there was no YouTube, and I had to kind of, not self-taught, but kind of learn, and fundamentals were not the way they are today. Today, if you look at even the great players of the 90s, whether it's Efren and Francisco Bustamante and guys like, Earl and, Rel Souquet, they all play totally different styles from each other. And now if you look at all the top Eurobots, they all play identical. So I grew up at a time where everybody was kind of doing their own thing. And so I grew up with some really bad habits. And I've made some improvements to offset some of the leaks in my fundamentals. But at the same time, I don't claim to have the best fundamentals. And so, yeah.
Cool. Let's see here. Like I said, feel free, anybody, if you got any questions.
Yeah, thanks for watching, guys. It's nice to spend New Year's with you guys, and I hope to see some of the names. Trust me, I'll go review the chat. I'll see what you guys have to say.
Oh yeah, there was a point where we peaked out at almost 190 viewers that were in here watching us. So that's amazing.
I have a question for the viewers. Would the viewers enjoy it if you and I took that match and then went back and added commentary where we did a player review?
Oh,
I'm just curious. I don't want to waste my time if nobody's interested, but would they maybe even on your channel? Maybe that people would like that, because I'd be willing to go back and I'll commentate my racks and you can commentate your racks as we gotta watch through them.
What would y'all think of that? You know how I have my pool coaching lessons? What if we do a pool coaching lesson on our own match where Demetrius can do most of the commentary since he was mostly at the table?
Yeah.
But of course, I can add in my little tidbits as to what I was thinking, and then Demetrius can counter that with probably what I should have done, just like how I do in my actual pool coaching lessons. Immediately, people are saying yes.
Okay.
Walden Big A, how's the weather? It's freaking cold up here, and I'm from Texas.
We got a little something coming for him on that too. Stay tuned and follow Chris on Facebook because we're gonna have something coming for you to tell you about how the weather was. But I won't, no spoilers. But I will tell you this: there's probably a foot of snow out there on the ground when he got here, and then we went on a little trip today. And when we got back, there was another 4 inches of a driveway from when we just left.
Yeah, it's amazing coming from the south and coming up here up north and just seeing the amount of snow that's everywhere. Because I'm old enough that when there was a point where Texas actually used to get snow. Now all Texas get is ice. But I do believe it's snowing down in Texas right now. But I don't get to see it. Now I tell you what though, folks, we've got about. For Central Standard Time, we've got about an hour and 10 minutes before we get to ring in the new year. So does anybody want to see anything on the table? So feel free to ask for maybe a demonstration of something. We can get two points of views on, how to execute something, and then just feel free to ask any other types of questions. Or should we just play some more racks?
Yeah. We could play some 8-ball if you guys want to see 8-ball. We could play Scotch doubles. We could do trick shots. We could do whatever,
Exactly, Bang Time. What is snow? He's asking from Florida. Let's see here.
It's in about half an hour. I'm going to have a buzz ball. I've got this little buzz ball. It's like I'm going to have one alcoholic beverage, and it's probably all I'm going to have. But once I have that, I'm putting my way my cubes. I'm so lightweight. I'll have that one little shot, and it's going to be like.
So I guess one thing I can say to everybody is, and I think this goes for anybody that happens to take coaching lessons from anybody that would be perceived to be a higher player than them. You're not supposed to expect that when I return home from Texas that I'm just going to be this monster pool player. Out of nowhere, regardless if my coaching was from Demetrius or from Shane Van Boning or anything else. What Demetrius has imparted onto me is mainly theory on a lot of things with demonstrations, and every now and again I have performed what he demonstrated so that I know that I have the capabilities of reproducing it. The problem is going to be to make sure that I retain that on my own, because a lot of my APA players that I coach know this as well, that after I coach them on something, if I'm not constantly, on their shoulders reminding them, their old habits are going to creep back into their game. And I've already admitted to Demetrius that that's probably what's going to happen to me. So it's going to require a real good conscious effort to remember the theories and principles that he teaches me and then maintain them when I go home.
I want to take a second and plug that, because I know a lot of my students that come out here, they know in their head that they're going to have to keep practicing, and some of the stuff takes a while. But yet, a lot of them have a fear when they start leaving. They start feeling panicky. They start asking. Usually on day 3 of the boot camp, they start asking me all these questions, and they start practicing all the stuff we've done, and they kind of get frantic, almost like somebody that's afraid that they're going to forget something when they go on vacation. And so what I did, because I worked really, really hard to try to find a way to not let that happen to my students. So I tried a couple failed things. I can't do a ton of one-on-one follow-up because if I have dozens and dozens of people that come and train, it's hard for me to spend an hour a week, with everybody. But then I tried doing these Zoom meetings and stuff, but it was too hard to schedule. So what I did is I set up a private Facebook group for MN Pool Bootcamp that's only open to 3-day bootcamp graduates. So right now I've got 24 members, and that have come in the last year since I started this program. And the point of this group is there are certain ideas and concepts and almost a language. I've got it written out on this whiteboard behind me of certain things that I use to talk about amounts of side spin, or talk about cut angles, or to talk about different speeds, or talk about different types of things. So there's and different theory, in terms of whatever all these things about talking about difficulty of shots or transitions. I have a way of kind of a language I use and certain theories I use as to how I break down patterns and approach the table. So anyway, I want people to not only remember that, but to remember the finished product, because I have an idea of how pool should be played, and then the tools needed to play that game. And I don't want it to be like IKEA. So most people don't have all the tools, nor do they know how to put them all together. And what they've got is a little, like I said yesterday, a little Frankenstein. When they come here, I give them, not only do I help them develop those tools that are missing, but I show them what it should look like when it's put together and how those pieces go together. And then we practice those tools, and then we practice putting together. But I don't want them to lose that picture and that vision, or not follow through and continue to develop those tools. So this private bootcamp training that I set up, I do video reviews. So any of my students that have ever taken a bootcamp from me, they can record a set, email it to me, and then I go through and do commentary on it and post it for the group so that everyone in our private group can review it, so that people can see and keep hearing these ideas, see when they work, see when they don't work, see when people aren't applying them and how I pointed out, see when they are applying them and I applaud their growth. And we root each other on and talk about our progress and set goals. And it's a really, really, really cool community. So, Chris, you're going to be invited to that.
Absolutely.
And of course, you can contribute as an instructor as well. We're honored to have you. So I want you guys to know that when you come train with me, I'm absolutely in your corner. I care for all of you guys. There's nothing more satisfying in the world than watching your pool game grow after you felt like you couldn't get any better. And I want you all to have it.
So I don't know if you remember, but Tango Bravo Zulu from the last live stream, he donated $10 to this current live stream, which I already thanked him in chat. And so let me verbally thank you now that we're actually speaking to the viewers and stuff. And then we have a $4.99 super chat donation from an active Jonathan. So thank you so much for that generous super chat. So actually, I've got a couple of questions that people are asking me. This is from Kyle Mackland. He's saying that I'm definitely a picture book perfect great player, but while you were on your break and runs, what was I thinking? Well, clearly I'm thinking, when is he going to make a mistake so I can get back to the table and actually try to do something? But at the same time, knowing that I'm here trying to learn from Demetrius Bootcamp, I'm watching him like a hawk and studying his cue ball movements and stuff, because I'm at least knowledgeable enough to where when I watch the reaction of that cue ball, I think, well, he must have put this type of spin on the cue ball to make it happen. So at least I have this general idea, but I just don't know precisely where he's might be hitting the cue ball. So again, the example would be the shot that he had on the 6-ball rail, where he had to have maybe a little bit of top spin and then a boatload of right spin for it to come off the side rail, float down to the end rail, and then spin over for position on the next ball. I wouldn't even be able to think like that shot was even possible, but now I know it's possible, so it's probably something that I'm going to start working on. So that was what I was thinking the whole time when he was doing the break and run on the 2 racks. And then, of course, whenever he's just at the table running out, I'm obviously hoping and wanting him to make a mistake, like when he ran long on the 10 ball and you cut it inside. I'm thinking, I might get a chance to come back, but I didn't. But at the same time, I'm also trying to soak up everything that he's doing. Another question.
By the way, when Chris was at the table, I was offering the devil my soul if Chris would just dog the 10. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I was rooting for him. Okay, go ahead. Go.
Table Roll 1 wants to know what is one of the most important things that I've learned so far. So I immediately told Demetrius that one of my principles that I play by is minimize cue ball movement. The smaller your cue ball movements are, the easier there is to control. So there's no disputing that argument. But the argument that does dispute the principle is that when I do minimize cue ball movement, sometimes I end up getting position, but it's not the greatest of position. So what Demetrius has shown me so far is just another way to maneuver the cue ball, which is a little bit farther than what I'm normally comfortable with, but it reduces the risk of getting bad position. And what I mean by getting bad position is where you literally are, you have a pretty full hit on the object ball, a 3/4 ball hit, sometimes, a 7/8 hit or something, and now you're at a point where you have to muscle the cue ball around to try to get to the next shot. And he's showing me different theories, different routes, different ways to hit the cue ball to actually maneuver a little bit better to where you don't have to muscle the cue ball around, which every one of y'all should know. That's pretty much what I preach in my lessons is don't try to muscle the cue ball around. So the problem that I have in my game that's been exposed is my minimal cue ball movement principle has a flaw. And that the flaw is that sometimes during that minimal cue ball movement, with poor execution, there is the possibility of getting position, but it's not ideal position because I'm going to have to muscle the cue ball around. Now, having said that, though, that doesn't mean if I follow Demetrius's principle, everything's fixed. Because even though it's a new principle, if I still don't execute correctly, the same result might happen. I mean, you know, you're moving the cue ball around a little bit differently, and if it still doesn't land, you know, great, it's still going to be a possible shot where you do have to muscle the cue ball around. So that's what I'm referring to where if I find areas where I feel like I'm struggling trying to do these different maneuvers, then it's going to be real easy for my principle to just creep back in because, like, I'll say to myself, well, I can get there with this position, and I'll prove it to myself X number of times, but then, and that kind of validates that I should be still be playing this way, but then there's going to be those crucial moments where I can say, should have done it the other way.
Let me give them one example. I'll just set it to be a little bit more tangible. I don't think this is one we haven't looked at, and it's not particularly complicated. Say we've got a 3-ball run, and this run out, let's say the 10 balls over here, 9 balls up here, like this, okay? And the cue ball's here. Now, and guys, I'm making this up on the spot, so I'm not suggesting this is perfect. But let's just suppose we wanted to run these 3 balls. Well, a minimum cue ball movement principle might be to just cut the 4 in and come 1 rail up for the 9.
Absolutely.
And then to shoot the 9 and come up come up 1, 2 rails like this. Now, maybe that's right. Maybe that is right in terms of minimal cue ball movement. However, for me, there's a couple things that make me uncomfortable, which is this 9-ball shot. Once in a while, when you shoot this, you can kind of go towards the side, or you can go towards the corner, and so you got 2 pockets to dodge. And if you look at the 10 ball, I really need to be very good on the rail. And if you look at where I'm coming from the 9 to the 10, even if I come down this way, I'm kind of crossing the positional line on the 10. So I've got to dodge the corner, use the right speed, and the speed is hard to control because I'm shooting a half-court shot a long ways away, and the thickness of the head on the 9 changes my cue ball speed and direction so much that I guarantee everybody here has not gotten out from here.
Yep.
However,
under hit the 9 ball and you have a thin cut on the 10 ball, you get flat on the 9 ball because you're trying to do the minimal cue ball movement and you end up being full to where you have to try to draw off the 9 ball.
Right.
Et cetera, et cetera.
If I can get on this side of the 9 down here, now I can use a rolling ball, maybe a half ball hit, a little bit of outside English and come 1, 2 rails. And now there's a bunch of differences. One is I've got a 4-foot target where I'm going to be close to the 9. I have a huge target to hit where I don't have to worry about a scratch, so I can go all out and play good cue ball speed. And I'm coming more with the line of the 10, that's number 2, and I've got a brace with this rail that's going to slow me down as I dribble into position. So what that requires is I go 3 to 4 rails off the 4 ball, which what I'm doing is since I have an easy shot here, I'm adding difficulty to this easy shot to reduce difficulty to the hard shot. I'm balancing things out so that the 9 ball's not as hard for me. So the way I might play this is with like a half ball hit outside English. I might come off the bottom rail even, just kind of like 1, 2, just come on down, bump, bump. These 2 rails kill all my speed, and now I've got a real. I can get out from here 100 times in a row. I mean, it's just kind of automatic from there. And so that's just I just made that up, but that's like one example of how balancing if you recognize that there's going to be a tough spot in the rack. See, Chris is good enough that when the racks are easy, he runs them all. So what we have to do is when there's a tough spot in the rack, we can find ways to balance the difficulty between different shots to make the hard part not as hard. Because then, as long as you make the hard part manageable, he's good enough to manage it.
Absolutely, and I couldn't agree more with that example because you're right. I would just play the 4 into the corner, 1 rail off of the short rail, come down towards the middle of the table, and then play the 9 and try to 1 rail, possibly 2 rail my way back up to the 10 ball. But like you said, when I try to 1 rail down to the 9 ball, I do risk getting really flat on the 9 ball. It's where I might have to muscle the cue ball around, where I might have to go 4 rails the other way and still cross the line. Or when I do shoot the 9 in and come off the short rail, I don't come far enough in my shot on the 10 ball.
If you catch that 9 a little thick or thin, your cue ball changes direction and speed in a spot where you can't afford to.
Right, and so like that would be probably one of the biggest things that I'm starting to learn. To where like it's not like there's anything wrong with the minimized cue ball movement principle, but it does have a flaw. So and even so, like it's not like there's a flaw in Demetrius's theory, but if your cue ball execution is still poor, you still might end up short. You still might end up bad.
And that's why I teach the shots that you need. That I teach the shots that I need to do what I just do, including like the shot that I just shot. We've talked about all these shots.
Yeah.
So I talk. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. We got another $4.99 super chat donation from Rooster 760.
Hey, Ruben. What's going
exactly.
on?
So thank you so much.
Thanks, Ruben. Good to talk. I mean, I'm not talking to you, but thank you for tuning in.
And then we've got another $4.99 super chat from G-Man. So thank you so much. We really, really do appreciate it. Let's see. We got a question for you, Demetrius, from Kyle Macklin. He wants to know that when you were on the hill and played the last and winning rack, it seemed your movement to the cue ball became faster as if you wanted it over. Could you speak to the pace during the last rack?
Yeah, I think when you're on the hill and you're nervous, it's a good idea to start rushing and cutting corners of your free shots. No, guys, it's a couple things. One is nerves. So it's probably suboptimal to start speeding up. So just because I do it doesn't mean I think it's positive. I'm human and I make a lot of mistakes. But the other thing I would say is the right rhythm can change during a match. So, okay, I want to talk about this, but I used to really wonder about rhythm. And this is funny, for those that know, I'm very analytical, and I spent maybe 2 years talking to all kinds of top players, reading lots of books, watching a lot of matches, and trying to figure out the best rhythm. And I broke it down to 3 different rhythms. I broke it down to the fast and loose players that are like Earl Strickland, Josh Filler, that always play the same fast gear. Then you've got guys like Ralph Souquet and Nick Varner that are really, really good, that always play a methodical gear. And then you've got guys like Alex Pagulayan, Shane Van Boning, that they can play deliberate at times, and then they can speed it up and really play quick at times. And so they change gears. And so I wondered, I was like, man, which is the best? Should I always play slow? Should I always play fast? Or should I allow my gear to change? And I thought, well, the slow players, they don't have the same momentum and energy and kind of rhythm and confidence that builds. But then the fast players, sometimes they're a little reckless and spewy and leak off some chances. But then the players that shift gears, sometimes they're in the wrong gear at the wrong time. I'm like, and then I started wondering, like, maybe the slow players are more consistent but have less first places. But maybe the fast players have these big streaks where they win a tournament, and then don't cash again for 2 years. And so I was wondering, is there like one is better for high water marks but not as consistent? So I studied, and after 2 years of beating my head against the wall, I solved the answer.
And what's the answer?
Okay, I'm just going to savor this, because I worked for 2 years. You guys can wait for 2 seconds. Here's the answer. The best speed, the best of those 3 is, it doesn't matter. I've come to find out that actually there's multiple ways to skin a cat, and it really doesn't matter as long as you put the pieces together and make it work. And so in the end, guys, I play a little bit on the slow and deliberate side, but when I started getting confident, like when I was on that last rack, I wasn't like nervous, and like, I mean, I'm always nervous, but like I wasn't like afraid and wanting it over with. I was just like, as I was putting more and more balls together, I was feeling more and more confident. So what happens is, before I shoot, if I have negative thoughts, doubts, fears, or if I don't feel good on the shot, I have to work through that until I'm ready to shoot. And so in the beginning of the match, when I'm a little jittery, I have to work through more before I'm ready to shoot on each shot. And as I start grooving and zoning and feeling good and getting in rhythm, I have less doubts and fears and less trouble settling into the shot, and I'm able to play with a little bit more, pace. And so it's only because it's almost like when the rack is clustered, you have to take more time than when it's open. When your mental brain is clustered, you have to play a little slower when you're feeling good. You can, as long as you don't like start rushing and skipping steps, as long as you don't shoot until you're ready, it's okay.
Let's see here. I know we should know and understand that typically you don't work with amateur pool players. You kind of work with the intermediate players. But I think this is a fair question to ask. From Tristan Plays, what do you think is the best drill that an amateur should work on to improve their game?
Yeah, that's a good point. So It's very, very, very player specific because it depends on what skill. I mean, to me, a drill should be there to develop a skill or solve a problem, you know. And so, but that being said, if I had to pick a universal drill that I enjoy doing, I call this an evergreen because I've done it forever, and I will continue to do it forever. It's that 5-hit drill. It's not my drill, by the way. Shout out Joe Tucker from the East Coast. The 5-hit drill. I'll shoot 5 shots. I'm going to shoot a stop shot. Swish. Now I'm going to shoot a punch follow or the stun run through, guys. Stun run through. I'm not going to slow roll forward 2 diamonds. I'm going to shoot because my stroke speed is the same on every shot. Same on every shot, but I'm going to raise my tip so that the cue ball doesn't slide, but it doesn't roll. It's kind of dribbling with a little bit above center with a firm hit. 2 diamonds forward. Now,
1.5.
now, next one is what I call the punch draw, where I come back to where I start. It's not zipping backwards, it's dribbling backwards. I'm not varying my swing speed, I'm only varying my tip. Oh, that was way too far. See, when you're in stroke, you gotta back up. Back up. Let me try that one more time. No, I won't. I'm trying to back up to here. Then the last 2 are the follow. This one is a firm, smooth follow. And then the last one is the draw, which I only did by accident. And I recommend, when I do this drill, I use these pocket tighteners, which make the shots extremely difficult. Sometimes I do it from the head string with pocket tighteners. Sometimes I shoot from near the rail or even a little elevated on that drill. Sometimes I do the drill from over a ball. I've been doing that drill for 15 years, and so I got to keep it fresh. But I think that drill, you don't vary your swing speed. You just make straight-in shots and vary your tip placement. That'll help you with your stroke, your tip accuracy, and your draw, and being able to, that punch follow shot where you stun forward, that's a very, very important shot to put in your toolbox if you're not comfortable with it.
It's basically proving that you don't have to change the amount of power that you want to manipulate the cue ball. You can keep the same amount of power, but just vary where you're hitting on the cue ball. I mean, with the understanding that, of course, power does manipulate the cue ball as well, but if you keep the consistent speed and just change the tip location along the vertical axis of the cue ball, you can also change the result of where the cue ball lands.
And very much so. And that it gives you a mastery of the vertical axis. And the reason why that punch follow is so important, like why not just slow roll? I'll show you a spot that came up in this match. I got a little funny on the 9 ball because where's the 10? 10 ball was here. The 9 ball was here. And originally I wanted to get out on this side of it so I could play them in the same pocket. But I got, like on this side of the 9, where I had a problem. If I roll the cue ball, and this was short side, by the way. It wasn't sitting that good. If I roll forward, it's really easy for me to go too far. And it's really easy for me to come up short. I don't want to be coming this way with the cue ball because I'd have to stop on a dime. But if I stun the cue ball, that's no good either. So what I wanted to do is punch forward so that my cue ball is going diagonally forward. If I roll, it's going here. If I stun, it's going over here. So in order to send the cue ball diagonally towards the 1.5 diamond, I have to use that same. I overhit it now, but that's where I wanted to go, and that's why I was able to get on that 10 ball. So in pool, when you're straight in, you can get there by either rolling the ball softly or whatever. But when you're at an angle, it's important to have all those hits in your toolbox so you can fudge the tangent line forward and back. Okay.
Let's see here. What else do we got? I've seen this question multiple times. I already know what your answer is going to be. It's going to be a short one. What aiming system do you use?
Put it in the hole. If you guys haven't seen this, look up pool aiming systems. Put it in the hole. It's the funniest video on YouTube, other than Chris's ghost video.
But we've talked about this before. You are primarily a ghost ball aimer.
When I was a kid, I learned with ghost ball. If I had a really, really thin cut, I'd focus on edge to edge. To this day, if I don't think about it, but I guess I address when I'm standing up. I kind of address my body and cue at the ghost ball. but I'm kind of aware of the overlap, and then I'm kind of aware of the contact point. On thin cuts, I'm kind of aware more of the edge of the ball. On straight shots, of course, I'm staring at the front of the ball. I don't know. But in the end, guys, I've talked to Chris about this a lot. I really, really believe that in pool, you've got your conscious and your subconscious. And your conscious is really, really, really bad at aiming. And your subconscious is amazingly talented and brilliant at feeling and visualizing and making magic, making that vision come to pass. And so you have to teach your subconscious, you have to guide, you have to learn stuff so that you have the right models of how things work to kind of help allow your subconscious to get a feel and get the right practice. But then you have to be able to let go. And from what I've seen, I told Chris this, some players are too, not analytical enough. They don't get instruction. They don't watch Chris's YouTube videos. They just kind of play and freewheel and hope to get better someday, and it doesn't work. You have to learn and study. But other players are too controlling and analytical, and they are unwilling to delegate to their subconscious. They're unwilling to relinquish control, and they think they're going to squeeze, and it's like a death grip on their pool game. And I'll tell you, top players. If you look at all the top players, none of them do that. None of them squeeze their game. In fact, I am too analytical. One of the reasons I have a hard time playing as good as the top level players is that I have a trouble trusting and letting go. And so confidence and flow. But so I'm telling you guys, everybody that comes and trains and watches instructional videos, you're probably in the category I am, where, if anything, we should let go and trust more and more and more.
Okay, so for the remainder of the stream, I'm gonna go ahead and answer this question because we've had it asked on the last stream, so that we don't have to continue repeating it. So Tristan Plays, you're pretty much asking a question about equipment, and we already know that equipment boils down to personal preference. There are people that probably know a little bit more about, like, for this amount of weight, you might want this or whatever, but we're not those type of people. So we don't have 11 millimeter shafts, so we're not going to be able to say, well, for an 11 millimeter shaft, you should have this or you should have that. At the end of the day, we're going to say you're going to use whatever works best for you. So if there's any equipment questions, we're not really going to answer them.
Yeah, Chris and I both agree that as long as what you have isn't broken, it's fine, and that's chasing equipment is not the future.
Because at the end of the day, the equipment is going to play a very small factor in performance, where the majority of your play is going to be just based on you. I even have a video where I demonstrated that, where I'm kind of describing, purchasing your cue for the first time, and I break and run through 4 different racks with a cue that costs from $20 to a cue that costs about over $1,000, and all 4 results were the same. Now each cue feels differently, but it doesn't prevent me as a player to still be able to break and run a rack with them.
And that's why it burns me up when people spend thousands and thousands of dollars chasing a magic bullet with equipment, but then they don't take advantage of instruction or even free instruction. Okay.
Yeah. No, I mean, absolutely. I like this question. I want to hear how you decide to answer it. So this is for you. This is from Justin Seeker 2001. When and how did you decide that you were good enough to play as a professional?
Well, again, I don't play. It's not my primary source of income. So, but when so I took a shot. I'm trying to remember. I took a shot in 2005 to play in a U.S. Open. Scalp. I told that story last night. I won a match against Danny Basovich to get the money, and won another match and cashed, and so that was fun. And then I played a couple. I just started playing events. Here's why. For me, it was just like I got to the point where I was kind of one of the better players in Minnesota. I was winning most of the local tournaments and regional tournaments, and so I just wanted to keep challenging myself. So for me, that's why I went to pro tournaments, and then I started realizing that I was very live against even very good players. What I would say is, for anybody that is interested in should I go to should you go to a pro tournament? I would say there's no harm. Especially. There's some pro tournaments that are very expensive, and that the level of competition is so high, like the U.S. Open. It's a week-long tournament, $1,000 entry. You're going to have hotel for a week and $1,000. It's a great trip, and if you want to watch top players and be ringside, it's a great experience, and maybe it's a good vacation. But if you don't play well, it's kind of tying up a spot for somebody that would want to play, and if you don't really want to play that, but I'll tell you some good tournaments. Turning Stone in Syracuse, New York. They have one in January, one in August. Derby City Classic. There's a number of tournaments like this where you have national level competition. Maybe the top 10% of the field is international. You've got another 10 or 20% that are top national level players. I'm probably like in the middle of that 20%. And then you've got a lot of amateur, players that are really strong. Like Chris would fit right in. So, if you went to Turning Stone, like if there's 128 players, you're better than half of them for sure. You know what I mean? And so if you're a run-out player, and you can, if you feel like you can run tables and you want to challenge yourself beyond, kind of some local bar table handicap stuff, I would encourage you to go to some national level tournaments with big fields like Derby and Turning Stone, because then you're going to get a chance to play a Johnny Archer or a Shane, but you're also going to get a chance to play a Chris, and you might even get a chance to play some other people that are taking their first shot too.
Yeah, and I'm going to add another tournament to that list, which be the Texas State Open. That's another very notable tournament here in the United States that I do participate. I did participate this year. Unfortunately, I didn't surpass my first goal, which is to not go 2-0. But, after being on a good, long 6-7 month hiatus due to COVID and stuff, and then entering back into the competition world at a level that I probably shouldn't have started with. That was a comment that I received from the Pool Player podcast saying, of all the tournaments that you decided to enter back into the competition realm, this one was just a little too high. I do happen to agree with that. I probably should have started a little bit more on the B side and then kind of crawl my way up. But at the end of the day, I still enjoy the competition. I know what I've done in this tournament event before. I have made it to like day 2. I've gotten close as being like 2 or 3 matches out of the money. It's just this year just wasn't it.
Listen, I'll tell you guys something about Pro Pool though. You're going to take some losses. Doesn't matter. Shane loses, Filler loses, everybody loses. So it's like when I played Chris here, we split the first 4 racks, right? We both made mistakes. We both made some good runs. It's too small of a sample size. You go to a pro tournament, you got to realize these races to 7, races to 9, races to 11, at that level, I mean, it's no different than if you guys played a bar table set to 4. It's like, you make a mistake or two. And I mean, think about that. We were 3-2. If Chris makes that 5 ball, it's 3-3. I'm feeling pressure. I've made some mistakes. Who knows what happens? Instead, he makes one mistake and the set slips away from him. I mean, really, it's like, so the point is that there's a lot of variance. And when you go to the Texas Open, if you get a good draw, you can win your first match. Maybe they dog it, and then all of a sudden you're feeling more confident. You settle in, you play a good set, upset somebody that's my level or higher, and then next thing you know, you're in the money and you're beating top players. And it's like, to me, you can't really dive into. There's no deep end of the pool, because in a swimming pool, if you dive in the deep end and can't swim, you'll drown. In billiard pool, if you dive in the deep end and can't swim, you learn and grow and have a lot of fun and challenge yourself.
I like that.
And so there's no deep end. You should just go deep. Go deep.
Okay, I tell you what, the questions have slowed down, but throughout all the questions, I did see, let's play some 8-ball.
Okay, all right, I'm in. All right.
So we're going to do like maybe a couple of racks of 8-ball when we got about 40 minutes until we bring in the new year.
All right, we'll play a few racks, and I'll bust open the spirits.
All right, I lost the set. I get the first break.
Oh, man. You know what? Okay, guys, I will teach you. Lesson 1, never give up the first break to a player like Chris. But now that being said, we are playing for fun. He's a guest. I love him. We're doing this for a stream. I will let you have the first break. Don't do what I do, because you're going to see why this is a bad idea.
What's that?
The first break. Have no mercy. There's no mercy in this dojo. Just don't sweep the leg.
All right, call pocket 8-ball?
Yeah.
Okay. Call pocket?
Yeah. Open table after the break.
Okay.
One-eyed jacks are wild. Whatever.
Okay.
Oh, I got a funny story about the 5-hit drill. After we're done, can you remind me?
Sure.
Okay. Guys in the chat, remind me to tell you the story about the 5-hit drill. It might have. It's pretty good.
Well, typically on a break like this, if I break dry, the game should be over.
Oh, here comes the sharking. Are you conceding? Is that a concession?
No, I'm just kind of predicting the future.
That's funny. Do I get bonus points for following my pattern? 7, 3, 2, 1, 5, 4, 6, 8.
I was gonna say he didn't call the 8, so that's where his pattern. That's where his pattern ends.
Well, I hit the first one. I gotta get on the 2. On the 2. Else. Maybe we worked on this shot though. I just gotta beat the 9 and 15. Oh, I didn't beat the 9. Oh no! What if I got really, really lucky? Did I ever get really, really lucky?
Oh my goodness.
Ah, man. I don't think I got it. I gotta get really, really lucky here. Greg Fix told me once, he was a pro in the city I grew up in. He told me to sight, if you can't see if you're going to make the ball, sight it from this side. He said it's better. I still don't know. I think I have to curl it.
Oh, I have a chance.
Gosh, man.
All right. Well, at the very least, I can recognize that my 12 and 13 might be my issue. I can probably try to use my 10 ball to get onto the 12 and 13. First thing is to establish an opener. Probably going to be the 14 ball or the 15 ball. If I shoot the 14, I have to bridge over 5. Over this 4 ball. I think it's 15 balls. With my 14 ball being next. Maybe be slightly straight in if I just stop the cue ball. So I can either maybe just dribble forward or just try to dribble back a little bit. I think the forward is probably easier to do.
Nice hit.
Here I see 2 rails for the 11 ball, kind of zigzag my way up. My 11 allows me to easily transition to my 10, which then might grant me access to my 12. Or I might be able to go 2 rails now and just get to my 12. Maybe just leave my 10 for later. That's what I think. Oh, I think I fell short. All right, so now I think I'm just going to play safe.
Dirty pool.
And I blocked him from at least accessing shots, but he can hit his either one of his solids.
I don't know if I can get it. I got a curl. I'll call the 6 over here.
Okay. Ooh, good try. So if anybody's wondering about any lagginess or choppiness of the live stream, we are streaming over Wi-Fi. So that is kind of expected, but then every now and again, you just might want to try refreshing the live stream on your end and see if that helps clear it up. Okay, so all my stuff's out in the open. I just need to execute with a good pattern. I kind of feel like shooting the 9 ball is going to land me in line for the 13, possibly over here.
Look at that. Well struck, sir.
Thank you. The question now becomes, do I really shoot the 13 in the corner because my cue ball drifts this way? It seems more advantageous now to shoot it inside and then my cue ball drift up and then come down and I can either land on the 12 or the 10. It'd be best if I can land on the 10. So at least I think it would be best to land on the 10. So I think that's what I'm going to try instead.
All my body English couldn't keep that ball from falling.
Okay, so the important part is to know that playing the 8 ball in this pocket is probably a no-go because the 4 ball blocks a lot of the pocket. So since my 12 ball is going to be the last ball that I want to shoot, I'm more than likely going to want to shoot the 8 ball into this corner pocket. So if I can land on the 12 to where I can cut the 12 in and have the cue ball come off this rail and back out over here, I should be okay. Which I think just a stun shot on the 10 ball gives me that. Ball corner pocket.
Sorry,
I won something! All right, we got 30 minutes. I think we got time for one more rack. Yeah?
All right, fine.
You can take the break on this
We
one.
could do one of those, we should do some of those endings.
Maybe after midnight.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I got a little ahead of myself. Blink, can't blink. You know what? Maybe on that last rack, when I had that shot in the side, and I tried to go 2 rails around, I could have either tried to thread the gap, play it with enough speed to hit the 9 and get away from it, or sometimes, guys, I might have been better off just banking that ball across side and holding my cue ball. You know, if the positional play becomes harder than just banking that ball, sometimes you're better off just snapping that ball across side and stopping.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. I was, the promise, I was committed to my pattern. Like, I went ahead like an idiot and called my pattern. No.
Oh, we've got an interesting question here. If you can recall this, you don't have to answer it while you're running the rack. Or you didn't make a ball. 2017 Bar Table Championship versus Skylar Woodward in a match that showcased no missed balls, an amazing jump shot.
Two back-to-back jump shots.
2 jump shots, a carom scramble out by Skylar, and Tango Bravo Zulu really wants to know what you said to him afterwards.
This is actually really, really good story. So let me tell you this.
Sure.
Or I can tell the viewers if you want to run out, I don't care. But so this match, if you guys haven't seen it, so I played the set before. I played Vilmos Foldesh, who's ranked like a 772 Fargo, and I beat him 5-0 with no mistakes. He never pocketed a ball. I just ran 5 tables on him. So then I get to play Skylar, and I'm feeling pretty good. By the way, the previous time I played Skylar, he was the wild card in some tournament. I beat him 9-2, so he knew who I was, and he didn't take me lightly. I was ahead of him. No. I want to say that somehow he had maybe a 1-game lead. He might have been 3-2 when I was breaking, and I knew that it wasn't enough for me to break and run out. I had to break and run out with some attitude, but kind of put a little heat on him. And so I broke, and I made a really crisp run out, and I was full of my cue ball. I was playing with a little bit more attitude than I normally play. Not attitude, but just a little rooster walk, a little confidence, a little aggression. I was really trying to make my presence felt. I didn't just want to run out. I wanted to make sure that I wanted to put some heat on the guy. And so I did. And it worked because at 3-3, he started showing signs of a little bit of maybe this isn't my day, and maybe he's going to win this match, and maybe this is not going to happen for me. And he started looking a little indecisive. Skylar usually plays with a lot of confidence and rhythm, and he started looking pretty indecisive at 3-3. And he started looking a little hesitant, and he started scratching his head and making some weird shots and laughing at himself, and he started digging himself into a hole. And then the weirdest thing happened, and now I want you to pay attention. I'm sorry to shark you. No, the weirdest thing happened, Chris, at 3-3. So Skylar starts to kind of melt down, and he's melting down, and he starts to put himself in a spot where he's kind of hopeless, and it's obvious he's going to lose the rack. And he hooks himself. And then he gets up and he shoots some jump shot and makes it, but then leaves himself an even tougher jump. And you can see from his body language, you can see where he's at mentally. He's ready to lose this rack and lose the tournament, or lose that set. And then if you're watching in the video, you'll see Shane Van Boning walk by. Because Shane was at the tournament, and Shane walked up to the ring and started watching the match. And what I want you guys to do, this is the weirdest, talk about how weird pool is. Skylar's shoulders were slumped. He was confused. He was laughing at himself. He was kind of defeated. And then he looked up, and you don't see him look at Shane because he was facing away from the camera, but he looked up. I saw him look up and see Shane was watching him. And it's like he didn't want to be embarrassed in front of Shane. And all of a sudden, he stood back up. And he confidently called this jump shot and gets up and makes an even tougher jump. And then he makes this crazy carom on the 8. And it wasn't because he's so good that he just made that jump. Shane, I really, really, really believe that if Shane hadn't walked up that time, and if he hadn't seen Shane, he was prepared to give me that match. And Shane walked up and he saw me, he perked up and he made that jump. And then after that, it went 4-3. And then what happened is I broke and I got kissed in. And Skylar ran out. And I walked up, and so what I said to Skylar after the match, when I walked over there, was I said, some players would think me getting kissed in was bad luck. But I believe that state of mind influences the balls. Because you might think something's lucky, but when you're in a positive state of mind, your subconscious can make things that look like luck happen. And when you're in a negative state of mind, your subconscious can create things that are so unlikely that you would think it was bad luck. And I've played long enough to know that it could just be observer bias, where when you're in a positive state of mind, you only notice your good luck and you don't notice the bad luck. And when you're in a negative state of mind, you dwell on your bad luck. That's part of it. But there's really something about attitude does shape the course of events on the table. And when his attitude shifted with Shane, it shifted what happened in the game. And then that impacted me to where when I got kissed in on the break, I told him, I said, I think the reason I got kissed in was because of the way you regrouped and ran out of me. I think that if that hadn't have just been some magical knockout blow that he did the rack before, I think that put me in a spot where I was just kind of like, I guess it's not my day. And then that influence, and it looks really weird. A ball came around and kissed the cue ball in, but I'm like, no, I've seen it too much, guys. State of mind. So you can think I'm a little, a little hippie or something, but I'm telling you, state of mind influences the way these balls act.
I know the match that was asked about. I have to go back and rewatch that part.
That was the weirdest thing, and I've seen this a million times, guys. That's the best example I've ever seen on tape of attitude influencing the balls. Now I sharked you. Thank you. Thank you. Whoever asked that question, I appreciate you letting me shark Chris. Well, I've got some problems, don't
I? What pizza parlors did we hit up during this day? We just had Domino's.
That was a disaster. Don't order pizza on New Year's Eve.
Yeah, don't order pizza on New Year's Eve. It took quite a while for us to get our pizza.
I don't know what I'm doing with these balls yet, guys. I'm just going to freewheel. I don't have a safety valve. I don't have a plan. I'm just going to kill soldiers. Maybe I should bank the 5 and rip into them. I mean, that's not the right shot, though. I got to give the audience something. What's the right shot, guys? I got to find something defensive because there's just nothing really. Maybe I should just play some type of safe behind him. Get behind him and play a safe.
I'm thinking is not cutting the 1 to try to come break up the 6.
I just don't have a good safety. I don't have a good safety valve, but yeah, it's probably okay. It's probably okay. I could also break him off the 7 if I go 5. Let's just go 5, 1, 7, and then I can always play safe behind him or something. But yeah, you're right, Chris. That's maybe okay. I think I can get him off the 7. I'm building it up for the crowd. Oh, by the way, Jesse Eckel was with me. We were going halves in that tournament. Jesse made the final 4, and he played Shane. And he was down 4-3. Jesse runs up to the 8 ball and hooks himself so he can't make the 8 in the corner. And he calls the 8 ball 3 rails, and he banks the 8 3 rails and in, and then breaks and runs out of the hill. And Shane was sitting right where you're standing. And Shane, you could see, I've watched this 20 times in a row, because when that ball hits the 3rd rail and comes off, Shane's the first person in the room to know what's going. And his face, it was awesome to watch.
That's awesome.
And it made me the money.
Ah, beautiful breakup.
Thank you. I don't know which way. 6 or 2? Probably 6.
6, right? Uh-oh.
How's my speed?
Oh, the suspense! My goodness.
I love doing that to people. This isn't fun, man.
So G-Man wants to know about your, when you're almost grabbing the very butt of the cue. Because, I've seen, I think the answer is pretty standard. It just depends on the shot. I've seen where you're on the grip. I've seen where you're on the butt. But is there, a normal position for you, or does it just vary from time to time?
Listen, guys, my grip is suboptimal. I would never recommend it to anyone. I like Chris's fundamentals better than mine. I like his grip better than mine. I have played my whole life, and I've tried to change my grip to make it what I consider to be better. And every time, I either play worse, or I spend 2 or 3 months where I'm playing with the normal grip, and then I play in a tournament where I'm under pressure, and I look and I'm using the same grip that I used to use, and it just goes back. And I'm like, you know what? It seems to, if I find something that I can't do on the table because of my grip, then I'll start thinking about it. But at this point, I feel like I can kind of do most of the stuff I need to do. So I kind of resigned myself. At this point, I've just accepted that grip.
Gotcha. All right, guys, we have 19 minutes left before we bring in the new year, so I don't think we want to get caught up in a rack and,
should
possibly
we
miss
grab
it.
those buzz balls or what?
I think so.
I'll be right back, guys. I gotta check on something. I gotta see about a girl.
And then ask away some questions, guys. I'm still here. We are gonna have a drink when New Year chimes. Matter of fact, I'm gonna see if there's an official internet timer. Okay, there is an official timer. According to this, 17 minutes and 47 seconds. Okay, so JNav, have you ever been approached by sponsors, or do you just stick to Predator due to it being reliable and a safe pick in the terms of availability? So my answer to that is going to be that I ended up getting Predator because I wanted to try the new Revo shafts out. And because I knew that the Predator Revo shaft is like a lighter shade of black, or at least some shade of black, that I wanted to have some sort of butt of the cue that is also black. So because I like my stuff to match. And so I ended up landing on the Predator Black series, which I think has... I think there's like 6 or 7 cues in that lineup, and it was the Predator Black 4.5 that I ended up getting. And I talked about this on one of my last live streams, that the butt of the Predator Black 4.5 is actually a darker shade of black than the actual Predator Revo shaft, and that was one of my pet peeves about it. But I got over it real quick. And then, of course, since I have a Predator playing cue, I got a Predator BK Rush along with the Predator Air 2 jump cue because I just enjoy, or I rather would prefer all of my stuff to match. What about you, Demetrius? Like, have you ever been approached by sponsors or anything, or do you just pick Predator because it's reliable and a safe pick in the terms of availability?
Yeah, so there's only 3 reasons, I guess, to be sponsored. 1, for financial incentive. 2, because you really believe in a product to the point where you want other people to know how good they are. And 3, because you like the idea of being important and talented enough to attract sponsors. I really think that with sponsorships in pool, the incentives that they give are kind of a joke. But I shouldn't say that. Okay, it's not insulting because the fact is that a sponsored player can't bring that much to a company. It's not like if I wear a Predator patch, suddenly their stock is going to go up noticeably the next day and I'm worth a bunch of money. Like maybe Shane is worth something to a sponsor, but I'm certainly not. So if I were to get a sponsor and they were to give me free tips or something, unless they want to give me airfare and entry and hotel and stuff to go to major tournaments, that would be interesting to me. But if what they're going to offer me is wholesale cost on a shaft, it's so the fact is most people that I see with a bunch of patches on them, the only reason that they have the sponsorships is because they like the idea that, look at me, I've got a shiny shirt. And I've never been a shiny shirt guy. So, in the end, I just assume, unless somebody, I'm not valuable enough to anybody, and they're not valuable enough to me. So, I'll just sponsor myself, MN Pool Bootcamp. Hey, cheers. Cheers, Ben.
We're not done yet.
Oh, can I drink? Can I cheers you?
Yeah, we can certainly cheers. We
got the New Year's countdown. I'm excited, man.
We're currently sitting at 14 minutes and 30 seconds before 2020 is officially over in Central Standard Time. G-Man wants to know what's the most classic 9-ball match we have watched, or just you have watched or I have watched
in my life. What's my favorite match?
Yeah,
on tape.
Period.
Yeah, I've got an answer. It's actually on YouTube now. It came out about a month ago. It's on YouTube under the AccuStats Billiard channel. My favorite match is the one that influenced my entire trajectory as a player. I saw it when I was 13, 14, and I've watched it so many times that I wore out the holes in that tape. It's the 1990 U.S. Open, and it's with Nick Varner versus Mike Siegel. And it's a semifinal match on the winner's side. And it's a really well-played match. Nick Varner falls behind 9-2. He's hooked. He kicks in a ball and gets quarter hooked even worse. And Grady Matthews and Buddy Hall did commentary, and they talked about attitude. and how Nick never, ever, ever complained, mumbled, whined, made gestures, because he believed that any sign of moderate, anything like that was a sign of weakness, and he believed in never, ever, ever showing any sign of weakness. And you can control it. You can't always control what happens, but you can always control your behavior and your attitude. And Nick held himself to a level that I've only ever seen from Ralph Souquet and from Nick, which is an absolute level of professionalism and positivity and accountability and focus, unlike I've ever seen from anybody else. And so they were talking about how even though Nick was down 9-2 and kicking in balls and getting hooked and everything was going against him, how his attitude was unchanged. And then he made another kick shot from being corner hooked, made a gutsy run out, fought for that like it mattered, came back and beat Mike on the hill 11-10, and then went on and won the U.S. Open, which made him back-to-back U.S. Open winner. And then he went on and he won half the tournaments that year, was Player of the Year, and he was considered. And what I really love about Nick Varner and why he influenced me was because when I watch Earl, and when I watch Efren, and when I watch Johnny Archer, it's easy to see how those guys are greatest of all time. But when you watch Nick Varner or Ralph Souquet, my two favorites, they look ordinary. They do not look superhuman. They don't do anything at the table. You won't see Ralph Souquet ever do anything at the table to where you're like, well, that's why he's better. You know, it's like he doesn't do anything that you and I can't do. But yet he puts it together with such a level of focus, attitude, strategy, and all this, that yet in game management that he can achieve elite level of play. And to me, that's transcendence. And so that match with Nick Varner, you guys need to check it out on YouTube. That match, I watched it. It influenced me. I always wanted to be like Nick. He was my hero. To this day, I've had a chance to shake his hand, and I mean, this man is my hero, Nick Varner. What about you? What's your favorite match?
Before that, Silver's asking what was the final score. If you're asking about the final score between me and Demetrius, it was 9-2 Demetrius. I pretty much got destroyed. I think I had at least 2 or 3 opportunities to where I possibly could have lost 9-5, or that those 2 or 3 opportunities had I cinched it, it could have totally changed the outcome of the match. But I mean, I made my mistakes, and Demetrius capitalized on them. Classic 9-ball match. I mean, I was the first match that came to my mind, but I don't think this classifies as classic. But it was one of the most impactful ones because this is back when pool was on ESPN.
Yeah.
And that was the Corey Deuel versus Mika Immonen match, where Corey Deuel's amazing break and run out where he kicks in, I think, the 3-ball and then super draws that 4-ball off of the side rail and then still proceeds to run out. Like that was like one of the most amazing matches, particularly because of that rack altogether. And I think the biggest thing I liked about that match was Mika giving credit where credit's due to see a shot like that in front of him, just like when Chris Melling did that amazing 8-ball run-out pattern in front of Mika Immonen, and he does the same thing.
Poor Mika.
He's just sitting in the chair, but he gives credit where credit's due, and it's
I scalped Mika at the turning stone last time. He's just a funny guy because he gets so tilted. It just makes me happy. I gotta tell you that story about the 5-hit.
Oh, tell the story.
Okay, so guys, my favorite memory, and this is maybe one of my favorite things ever. So when I got this 5-hit drill, I got it from Joe Tucker, and it came along with a bunch of stuff in this little spiral book. And the spiral book came with a stand. It was a little green cover with a green back. And you'd open it up and have different pages, so you could open it up, turn your drill. But then on the back of the stand, it had a sign that said, "Do not disturb, player practicing." And I guess the idea was that if you're practicing drills at the pool hall, you're going to put this stand up like, "Hey guys, don't come bother me and make small talk because I'm a player practicing here. I'm a professional. Like, I'm training here, please." And now don't get me wrong, I have that attitude. Like when I practice, like that's why I have a table at home, because I do have that approach. But if I'm going to go to a pool hall, I mean, it's a little pretentious, right, to put up a sign that says player practicing. Like really, like you're going to put ropes around or something. So anyway, I got the drill book and I learned all the drills, so I didn't need the book, so I threw it in my desk drawer. And this is back when I was still married, and this actually might be one of the reasons why I'm not married. So I was playing one day, I was practicing, and my then wife at the time comes down and opens up the door, and she asked me some question. I don't remember if it was like plans for tomorrow or something about the dinner or something about something. And I was practicing, and she pops her head and asks me something, and she's watching me. And I was down. I just stopped. I got up. I laid my cue stick down. I walked over to my desk drawer, started rummaging around, pulled out that sign, I set it, I flipped it, and I turned it towards her. I walked back, I picked up my cue, and I got back down to the shot. Never broke a smile. Just a deadpan her the whole time. She just walked away. I don't remember what happened. I just remember that was like the coolest thing I've ever done. So anyway,
man.
you know what? If that caused a divorce and my children, you know, go on to become like vandals and criminals or something bad happens, at least I will say it was probably worth it. That was awesome.
All right, guys, we've got 8 minutes and counting before the new year. Anybody else got any more questions?
You would laugh, though, right? I know it's a little strong. But you'd laugh if that happened. Maybe we didn't have a compatible sense of humor. I don't know.
Let's see. So, JNav, you also have the Predator Black 4.5. Yes, and I absolutely do love my cue as well. It took me a good day or two to actually get used to the 12.9 Revo with a Victory soft tip on it, but once I got used to it, then it's now my topmost shooting cue that I actually own, considering that I own 4 different cues now. Because I have the Predator Black 4.5, I have a Sean STL-17, I have a Viking VM8 shooting cue, and then I have now a Jacoby HB7 that I actually won off of the VG10 tournament that was hosted by the Cue It Up podcast. Surf Topics wants to know, how can I get on one of the ghost matches you guys have been putting on? Bang Time Pool, if you're still in the chat, which I do see you, that's going to be the YouTube channel you want to get a hold of in regards to the virtual matches.
And Brian, you're part of the group, right, on the Facebook private group? I don't know what he's referring to. But you should. Do you have a video set up? Can you get me some updated videos of you playing and send them over to me? And let's. I haven't seen you too active in that group, and it's hard for me because what happens is I'll start posting stuff and then I'll get busy training, and I train from 10 a.m. till after midnight. So you know how it goes. You were here, so you understand. But anyway, keep in touch, man, and keep me posted on how things are going.
Let's see. Jack Cates wants to know what we were drinking. This is called the, hopefully I put it in the right spot of the camera. This is Buzz Balls Chillers Cocoa Chiller. It's orange wine with cream and natural flavors. So Demetrius already drank his. I'm saving mine for the chime of midnight. But I can tell you, like,
I didn't realize, was that the tradition?
No,
okay.
I didn't. But it's got this like distinctful smell to it. Like I don't know if it's a yummy smell or if it's like I'm gonna make the I just drank a drink face when I take a sip of this.
I don't drink more than a couple times a year. So and I usually have one. So anyway, I have I don't really like taste. So this is like supposed to be like some chocolate mudslidey kind of flavor. And it's a little stronger than, it's strong enough. I like the drinks where I can't even notice the alcohol and I don't really feel it. This I can notice. So it's a buzz ball. You drink one and you can tell you drank one, but then that's it.
So G-Man, this is a 9-foot table. I think they're classified as Pro-Am tables, but these are standard cut pockets, 4.5 corner pocket, 4.5-inch corner pockets with 5-inch side pockets. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's one-piece slate, so it's whatever they use. I have exactly what we use at Turning Stone and Derby. I mean, exactly. And 4.5-inch pockets, these days, people have this, I don't know, not this disdain, but they have this, kind of bragging thing where everyone wants to brag about how tight their pockets are. Tell you what, guys, once you have your cloth broken into where it plays like a pool hall and not like a tournament, and once you have, the balls get gritty and you haven't polished them for 4 or 5 days, trust me, they're plenty tight. They're not trappy, but they're not soft. So, but it's exactly what I play in a tournament. It's like identical. So I like that because everyone's like, oh, play on tight pockets. And then when you go to bigger pockets, it'll be easier. It's like, no, you play on tight pockets and it warps your percentages. So you don't know when to attack and when to defend. It impacts your ability to visualize success. I don't want to go down that road. You can play on tight pockets once in a while. And you can play, but then you should actually train on what you compete on, in my opinion.
I like this question that I'm going to answer. It's from Justin Seeker 2001. They want to know, where and when did the two of us meet? So this actually goes all the way back to one of my YouTube videos where I think it's my playing the Ghost in 9-ball for a race to 3 video. So in that video, I'm wearing a Cue It Up podcast shirt that I had won from a spot shot challenge that Fast and Loose Designs put on, to where I got third place, and I was given like a 20% discount.
How many spot shots did you make?
I made 17 spot to get third place. I made 17 spot shots on my 8-foot table,
Nice.
and I was also competing with players that were doing the same thing.
That's intense, man, because every shot the pressure is building.
Oh yeah, because the way they designed the challenge was 9-foot tables were off in a category on their own, but the 7s and 8s were put together.
Wow, so you're on an 8.
Yeah, and I'm on an 8 diamond foot table, so like I didn't agree with that categorization, but it's not my challenge, it's not my rules. I was just happy to play, and my 17 was enough to get third place because the same person ended up winning first and second with, I think it was 19 for second place, but then the same person, I think, put up like, I think it was a 27 or something on a 7-foot table. So I think if I was on a 7-foot table, I probably could have competed a little bit better, but I was still
cut out their heart.
I could have done something. But the shirt that I won for free for getting third place was a Cue It Up podcast shirt, and then I used my 20% discount to buy, I think it was my Predator Sandbagger, or the Predator logo Sandbagger shirt that I've already worn up here, and I've worn in a couple of videos. But that video, that 9-ball playing the Ghost for a 9-ball race to 3 video, caught Raleigh Williams, the average pool player's attention, who knew Nate from the Cue It Up podcast.
And I got to shout out to Nate Mindham. I doubt he's watching, but Nate originally was going to be here, but due to weather, didn't want to risk the trip. But I want to say shout out to Nate Mindham, host of the Cue It Up, creator, host, and manager, CEO, president, chairman, whatever. He's the Cue It Up podcast. And he's also promoting virtual tournaments like the VG10, the Virtual Ghost 10, doing a lot of virtual promoting for pro players. And so I want to say thank you and shout out to Nate Mindham. So, okay.
Absolutely, because Raleigh Williams ended up contacting Nate and saying, hey, there's this guy that's wearing one of your shirts that you need to get to know. Well, Nate ends up contacting me on Facebook, and my first impulse response was, who the heck is this guy? Because usually, if I don't know who you are, like from my area, I go and check our mutual friends, like, oh, we have a couple of mutual friends. So I went ahead and accepted his friend request, and then the next thing you know, we're chatting back and forth, and he's telling me, like, he's the owner of the Cue It Up podcast, blah, blah, blah. And then we started talking about, he wanted me to appear on his podcast show, which is why there's a video of me appearing on his podcast show. And it turns out Demetrius is a co-host on the Cue It Up podcast. So there was a point in time where I finally got to meet Demetrius pretty much the same way that I met Nate. And then we've been doing some pool coaching lessons together. It's where some videos there'll be just me reviewing, and then some videos there'll be the 3 of us reviewing them.
And that's how I met all of you. And so I'm really fortunate to. Oh wow, we've got a countdown.
Yes, we've got a countdown.
Get ready.
It's currently
do something at midnight.
Roughly 20 seconds before we have to ring in the new year. So for those that have stuck around for the stream,
trick shot at midnight.
No. Trick shot at midnight. For those that have stuck around, we're not going to just end this stream at midnight. Thank you all for being here. This is going to be a great way to ring in the new year.
Can you believe 2020 is coming to an end?
Right, yeah, I know,
now.
right?
Thank God.
2, 1,
Happy New Year!
Happy New Year, everybody!
2020, man, that's unbelievable. I remember 2000, and how did 20 years go by since then? Oh, man. Well, 2021, we made it, guys.
And what's the joke? I mean, if we thought 2020 was bad, now it's 21 and it's going to start drinking.
That's right, that's right.
Let's just hope 2021's a lot better than 2020 was.
That reminds me when I played a team tournament once in Vegas, and we had a match where we ran our opponents over, right? We beat them in, like, they barely won a game. So then the next match, we're like, who do we play next? So my teammate says, I'll go check the board, right? So he goes and checks the board, and he comes back, Chris, he says, well, looks like it's going to be a lot tougher next set. And we're like, well, why? Who do we play? Why do you say that? He says, well, I mean, it would almost have to be. Like, and I was like, oh, you got me. So I'm sure it's a better year, because it would almost have to be.
That's right, TBC. Hindsight is 2020. And speaking of the Cue It Up podcast, I did see that Nate is advertising for the VG10 2. tournament. So if you actually go back and look through my community on my community wall for YouTube, you'll see a bunch of posts where I was promoting a lot of queued up matches that were happening day by day. So you can kind of get an idea of what's about to happen. And it was on that VG tournament where I won my Jacoby HB7 in one of the raffles. So if you saw my unboxing video that I had done with the items that I had won from the Queued Up Podcast VG10 tournament, because it wasn't just the Jacoby HB7. I won a jump cue, I won a bunch of Predator chalks, some poison gloves. I won a ton of stuff at reasonable donation prices from all the raffles they were doing in comparison to the other magnificent prizes that they were also giving away. And I did state in that video that if you're not subscribed to the Queued Up Podcast or following the Queued Up Podcast Facebook page, you need to, because now here comes round 2. So not only, I'm more than certain, not only are you going to get to see magnificent, wonderful professional plays from our professionals, and Demetrius, because he did join the first one, so I'm assuming you're going to be in the second one most likely. But there's going to be there's more than likely going to be wonderful prizes for everybody to be able to win. So if you're not familiar with the Queued Up Podcast, check out any of the pool coaching lessons where the three of us are actually reviewing videos, because in the description link or in the description box below is everybody's information. Just like in this description box for this live stream is all Demetrius's information for his website, his YouTube channel, and his Facebook page.
And I'll tell you what, the thing about these virtual pool tournaments, don't think, I made the mistake, okay, and when they first came out, I'll tell you my initial reaction was, man, we're really desperate because of COVID. I guess we got to do some virtual stuff, or we're going to sit here and like play the Ghost or whatever. And I'm like, well, this is some flash in the pan. And as soon as things calm down and we get a vaccine and the drop rate, we're going to, we'll go back to live tournaments. And this is all kind of a gimmick. Well, I thought about it, and I was like, no, wait a second. It's one of those things where it's kind of like COVID and having to be, isolated was the catalyst of an evolution in the game. And just because it evolved in part because of COVID doesn't mean that this is going to go back to how it was. So, of course, we're going to have physical tournaments, but I expect that the virtual tournaments are going to continue long after COVID's gone, because now everyone's got the webcams and now everyone's got the setup, and we've all been forced into learning how to do this stuff. And so let me ask you guys a question. If you want to play against your first pro, do you want to spend thousands of dollars, take a week off, fly, and get a hotel room, and then go and play one set? Or do you want to spend, a couple $100 from home and have multiple shells at your convenience? I mean, and have fields that are bigger fields, bigger prize money. I'll tell you guys, I'm not saying this is the future of pool is streaming competitions, but I'm saying it's going to be here to stay, so it's not going anywhere. You might as well get on the bandwagon.
And I think the best part about, I couldn't agree more, and I think the best part about that type of format is you don't really have to worry about a professional beating you, per se. You have to worry more about you beating yourself, because it's not like the professional is going to, hook you like you hooked me or I hooked you, and, et cetera, because if you get hooked, it's your own fault, because it's you playing the table. The only thing that you have to worry about is trying to keep up with the professional score that they're putting up. And, what better way, like you said, do you want to spend over $1,000 for an opportunity to where you're losing matches because you're getting locked up, or a couple of $100 to where you're losing matches because of your own mistakes that allow you to learn what you need to work on? I mean, I don't think you could have asked for anything better, because that's usually why I like to play in mid-level to pro-level tournaments for like $100 here, $100 there, because I'm not going to have a chance to play against players like that, especially for fun, usually, in my opinion, because those type of players, they do like to play for money, but they don't like to play cheap, right? And I'm not a high-stakes gambler. I mean, I can admit that. I enjoy a gambling match, a friendly one, where we're not going to break each other's wallets. We're not going to get upset over losing $50, maybe $100. So that's pretty much where my comfort zone is. But if I want to take a chance at winning $1,000 in a tournament, and it only costs me $100, or I'm just making up numbers, and there's some top-level players for me to be able to play in there and see what I'm truly made of course I'm going to go for it. Like, to me, that's a no-brainer. I'm not spending so much money on hotels or plane or, flights or anything like that. It's just the entry fee to the tournament, especially in the local Texas area. I don't think you could have asked for anything more, and that's what I think the virtual tournaments are going to bring to the pool community. But I do agree, it's not going to replace physical competition, two players going at it, safing each other, getting, amazing kick shots, amazing jump shots, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, competition between two players in an actual physical environment is here to stay, and that's eventually what we're more than ready to return to. But now we have this brand new environment that brings a whole nother aspect where I think, there's this burning question of, is pool dying? And I think this is something that's going to reignite the fire to get it going again.
And it's a big deal for the U.S. players. For those that were tuned in last night, I talked about why the United States has been one of the reasons why it's a challenge for U.S. players to compete internationally. The Philippines have a very small area geographically where all the top players get to play each other quite a bit. Europe has a lot of great players in a very small area that get to play each other very often on the Euro Tour. The U.S. is very spread out to where top players do not, unless you're exactly Shane, Sky, or one of the 3 or 4 U.S. players that's traveling full time. Players like me, players like a lot of players, Oscar Dominguez, Justin Bergman, Mike DeShane. We're all spread out. I mean, Mike's in the East Coast, and Oscar's on the West Coast, and Justin's down in the Midwest, and I'm way up north. And it's like, we don't get to play each other very often. Now is a chance for the U.S. players to get to compete against top competition more and more. And I think that this virtual competition can be good for U.S. pool. That's my opinion.
The Grimm perspective, Corey Grimm, seeing this whole streaming pool playing allowed him to play against his brother the other day, where we haven't had the bonding moment in ages. So they're doing virtual matches against themselves using Google Meetings, Zoom, or whatever. So there's another prime example of being able to connect with pool players because in a ghost-like environment, like I said, all you're doing is just playing yourself and trying to keep up with your opponent's score and not against your opponent's safeties or anything else like that. And let alone, you get to learn the patterns that your opponents are also doing. So there's so much to benefit from.
That reminds me of that. By the way, I'm really happy. I play with my brother. I play chess with my brother, who lives in St. Louis, Missouri, and plays at that chess club down there. But anyway, I want to offer anybody in this chat, because we have people sticking with us in the new year. If I am trying to train and get ready in these ghost matches, so the format that I'm playing is 20 racks, where I play 10 ball. I have to make a legal break where I pocket a ball. If I don't pocket a ball or make a legal break, it's over. But if I pocket a ball, I get 1 point per ball with a maximum of 10. Unless I run the table without even taking ball in hand, in which case I get 15. Anyway, that's the format, 20 racks of ghost. Anybody that's on the stream listening to us live, I'm at info@mnpoolbootcamp.com, or you can look up MN Pool Bootcamp on Facebook, message me. Anyone that's tuned in right now, if you have a camera set up and you can play a ghost match, I'm looking to play some sparring matches to get warmed up for my next event. I'll play anybody here up to 3. I can't commit to more than 3, but the first 3 respondents, anybody that's interested in sparring with me in a set of 10 ball ghost, I'd love to know who you are. I'd love to connect, set up a time to play ghost match.
If you missed any of that information, just check the description box below. You'll have Demetrius's Facebook, YouTube, and website. The Q student wants to know, where do we live? Well, I live in Texas. Demetrius lives here in Minnesota, and I am up here in Minnesota taking Demetrius's boot camp. So now that we're 10 minutes into the new year and we've been streaming for 3 hours, I'm just going to let this run for possibly a couple of more minutes to see if any more questions come running in. If not, I think we're going to probably end tonight's stream so that we can have a very productive day the next day to finish off the boot camp training.
So we got work to do.
Yes, there is still work to do, and I'm most interested in what we're going to be working on tomorrow, which is kicks and safeties, even though I did try my best to put on a safety match.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, he had me in jail. Remember that shot where I was locked between the 2 on the rail? Oh, man. I tied up that 8, and I just had to hope that I could hit the 1.
Yep. But, I mean, you got out by 3 foul.
I dogged a chance to 3 foul Efren. I played Efren a few times, and I had him on 2 fouls with a chance to absolutely lock them up. But I choked, and I let him have an easy kick, and I'm like, I could have 3 fouled Efren. Oh.
It sounds like TBZ is in on your offer for a virtual match. So be sure to contact Demetrius TBZ so that way you can possibly set something up. Let's see. AJ Luther 723 says, I'm under 500. I'm going to assume that's your Fargo rating. So, and I'm also going to assume that a statement like that is probably asking, how do you become a 530? How do you become a 550? How do you become a 600? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm going to give you the same answer that I give APA players on how do you go from being a 5 to a 6? How do you become a 6 to a 7? And that is making sure that you are fully aware on what you're capable of doing and what you're not capable of doing. And when you go into your matches, you do not try to do things that you are currently working on unless it's an absolute last resort, Hail Mary emergency shot to where it's like, I've been working on this, but I just haven't been successful, and now's the time where I got to do it. Because really what you want to try to do for yourself as far as training your mentality and then, of course, training your game is being good at what you can do, which allows you to play your best. If you still lose playing your best, in my opinion, that's a better loss than just playing crappy because you're trying a lot of things that you're currently not doing, or you're just having a bad day, period, and losing. Because if you play your best and still lose, that just means your opponent was better, and that's just reality. There's just absolutely nothing you can do other than go back to the drawing board, identify why you lost the match, work on that, on top of continue working on what you're supposed to be working on, whatever it is you're weak at. And this is the analogy that I like to do. If there's a particular player that you know that you can match up with in a race to 5, and you're constantly losing 5 to 3, you should be able to take those losses and figure out why you're losing, and then over the course of time, that 5 to 3 loss turns into a 5 to 4 loss. And then after a while, it starts turning into a 5-4 victory, and you finally won. And just like I tell my APA team members that just because you won, your learning is not done. Because even though you won, you need to figure out why your opponent was able to win 4 matches. And then start fixing those mistakes that were happening, because then you should start winning 5 to 3, 5 to 2, and eventually down to 5 to 0. Now, realistically, you're not always going to win 5 to 0. Let's just be realistic about that. But if you're constantly now beating that player that once used to beat you 5 to 2, 5 to 3 on a regular, consistent basis, I think you should be able to consider that opponent is now defeated.
And vanquished. I like the word vanquished.
Vanquished. There you go. And now you need to go look for your next opponent that is putting you back in the same position, to where you're losing again 5 to 2, 5 to 3, and then just rinse and repeat the same formula over and over again. Because now you go from Fargo rating 500 to Fargo rating 525 to Fargo rating 530, and you slowly start to climb. As well as if you're an APA player or a BCA, but whatever your rank is, you slowly but surely start to climb. And it's not going to be, like I explained earlier in the stream, here I am taking a 3-day boot camp. I'm not going to go home and go from 614 to like 650 like that. It's going to take time because I have to be able to really soak in the information that Demetrius has been able to give me and really be able to incorporate it into my game, because I've been playing my game for as long as I have. I have a lot of bad habits that have been exposed, and I have to try to erase them out of my game and bring in all these new theories that Demetrius has given me. It takes time, and time to me also means a lot of hard work.
Or you could go the fast route. So I have a Fargo Billiards hat. I'm very familiar. I get along very well with Mike Page. Shout out to Mike Page, Fargo Billiards, creator of Fargo Rate. And he told me to keep this secret, but for those people that really want to boost their Fargo rate, if you contact us directly and make a donation, we'll just take care of it for you. No. Okay. So my answer is this. So obviously, to develop your skills to go from 500 plus or under 500 to 500 to 600. Here's the thing, guys. Here's the evolution of pool. There's 3 physical skills categories. Now, you can talk about fundamentals and mental game, but I'm talking about actual on-the-table skills. Fundamentals and mental game are the foundation that you need to actually implement those. But here's the things. Pocketing balls, cue ball control, and patterns. When you start playing, the first thing you learn is how to pocket balls. And then there's a learning curve where you get better at pocketing balls. And then as you get through the easy end of the learning curve, you start to plateau where it gets harder and harder to get better at pocketing balls. So then what's the next thing you learn? Cue ball control. You start learning the basics of cue ball control, and then you get better and better at that until now the only way to get better is learning how to play better patterns to take pressure off my shot making a cue ball, and then you get better and better at patterns. Now there's mental game fundamentals, there's other stuff. But what I would say is beginning players low APA, like APA 2s and 3s, they're focused on pocketing balls, and their target is the object ball. As you get a little bit better, your target becomes the cue ball, and you have to develop tip accuracy. You have to switch your target from the object ball to the cue ball to where you're starting to become. So first, I talked about the 5-hit drill, developing the vertical axis. I work a lot with people and really make sure that they maximize the horizontal axis. And they learn, if you guys haven't seen how I spin my ball around, all this stuff about one tip away from center, I think that's crazy town. I am spinning my ball like Efren Reyes. So you have to then develop a full set of cue ball tools, and that'll take you from 500 to 600. And then if you want to go from 600 to 700, you have to start developing really, really good patterns, and that's what I'm working with people on here in my dojo, is developing those tools. Whether it's, I'm assuming you can pocket balls decent, I'm assuming you have some basics. So my advice would be, if you're under 500, watch Chris's YouTube videos, set up those shots, do the wagon wheel drill, where you can either do my 5-hit drill so that you can go forward and back, and on the horizontal, on the vertical axis, you can go forward and back. Then do the wagon wheel drill. Look it up, wagon wheel drill. Do you have a wagon wheel YouTube video?
I currently don't.
You should do one.
I do know that Dr. Dave has a good one that does the vertical axis.
Yep. So then do the wagon wheel drill. Now you're doing then you're doing the vertical axis at an angle. You're working with the tangent lines. Then learn your side spin. Bert Kinnister has a great 60-minute workout. He goes through a lot of core side spin shots that I still use and build on with what I train here. So first develop your shot making, then develop your cue ball, and then develop your patterns, because the idea is each one of those areas plateaus, and so you have to max out, but you have to max them out in that order. The other thing I would say is you have to watch and learn. You can't sit there and just keep what doesn't work. I'll tell you where it doesn't work is playing the same way you play again and again and again, thinking that you're just going to get incrementally better. Yes, you'll get incrementally better at executing what you already know, but that is going to plateau off to where you're going to play for 5-10 years and not see growth, which is that's where people get stuck. And you have to keep developing your skills in all three categories. When you max out your shot making, you got to go to cue ball. When you max out your cue ball, you have to go to patterns, and then you have to, like from last night, you have to watch and learn, but you also have to compete against and expose yourself to high-level players. When you train with me, you get all of the above. You get cue ball, you get patterns, you get mental game, you get exposure to high-level pool and a very clean vision of what that looks like, and game planning for both your practice as well as your career. And follow up with a nice private study group that we do. So
Let's see, from Q student, how many balls can you run in straight pool? So for me, straight pool is not a game that's played much in my area, but
excuses start.
But it is a game that I do enjoy. I do enjoy playing, and as of late, I did attempt to do Dr. Dave's Run Your Age Straight Pool Challenge. So at the very least, I had to run 40 because I just recently turned 40 years old back on December 15th. But I made a YouTube video out of it, so there is a YouTube video that you guys can watch. However, I did manage to run 50. And to this day, 50 is currently my high score, considering that I don't play straight pool all that often. Now that I know that I've ran 50 balls, I am going to be training in straight pool because I want to see when and how and when I could eventually run 100 and then eventually keep just going on and on and on. But what about you, Demetrius? What's your straight pool?
I'm going to give them a bonus for these guys for sticking around. I'm going to give you the best easy straight pool practice drill too. But my high run is 137.
Oh, good gosh.
I've run over 100 probably half a dozen times. But the thing is that it used to be that players would run, most good players would have runs over 100, but they were playing on Brunswicks with 4 3/4, 5-inch pockets. And there's 3 reasons why that makes the game easier. One, you pocket more balls, and a lot of new players say that players that have run 100 balls, most players that have run 100 are actually players that have run 33 times connected by 2 balls that wobbled and fell that should have hung. So nowadays we play on tougher equipment, and so it's harder to run 100. So anyway, so that's one reason that bigger pockets are easier, but there's 2 other reasons. Second one is you can cheat the pocket. You know how important that is in straight pool. You can kind of float around, nudge balls open, manufacture a break ball. And then the third reason is dead combos. The hardest part in straight pool, besides getting on the break ball and making the break ball, is then opening up the remaining cluster after the rack's been broken. And when you can find a dead combo, if you're playing on tight equipment, you only find a dead combo in the rack 1 every 3 racks. But
I can agree with that.
On smaller tables with bigger pockets, you find dead combos on average once per rack. And that allows you to guarantee a way to split open all the balls without a risk of missing or getting tied up with a cue ball. And so playing on big pockets makes those runs so much easier. And so even though I've only run the 106 times, which for some old time players did that all the time, I'm proud of what I've done. The only other thing I'd say with straight pools, I did a funny story. Jesse Engel and I went to a bar table tournament. And anybody that thinks that bar table straight pool is hard because it's smaller, no, it's easier because the pockets are big. Jesse and I went to a bar table tournament, Chris, and we were going to warm up. So I said, let's play some Scotch double straight pool. So we screwed our cues together, racked them up. We ran 216 Scotch doubles. And then he left me a funny angle, and I scratched off the pack on an up-table break shot. And anyway, but the point is that was our first inning. I'm like, well, I think we're warm. So that's honorable mention to that. But here's my drill. For all of you guys, I want to give you a little something for tuning in. People overthink patterns at straight pool. There's a couple phases, right? You've got the phase where the balls are still tied up, and you've got to deal with that. That's fine. But then a lot of times what happens is once the balls are kind of dealt with to where they're mostly open, you don't want to burn up energy overthinking things. You've seen Thorsten Holman. Thorsten Holman is a very deliberate, fundamental-based, thoughtful, mechanical, analytical player. And you watch a run, he has a run up there I just watched where he ran 200, 100 balls, 200, maybe he ran 200, I forget how many balls he ran, but I think he ran 200. And he did it like flowing, rhythmic, not overthinking. So here's my tip. When you're playing straight pool, you identify your break ball, your key ball, and your key ball to get on your key ball. And then you just set those aside. So make sure you clear the balls out around them so you don't bump them, and then just free will for the rest. So here's an example. So here's a great drill. Set up a break ball, set up a key ball, or set up a key ball for your break ball that's going to be very good. Like I can get on this 9 ball from almost anywhere. And then set up a ball that's going to get me on this ball. Like, I don't know, maybe this 12 ball. I can get up from this 12 ball. I should be able to get on the 9 from almost anywhere. I just want to set that up to where it's not blocking pockets. And then if I have other shots, like let's just say that this is my layout, practice running the rest of these balls and then leaving this, this, and this. So like from here, and you don't have to overthink it. I can just kind of freewheel. If you don't want to sit there and agonize, maybe that 11 ball is a bit of a problem. So whatever. Try to get on that 11.
To the later 10, I would think.
And so the idea is you don't have to overthink this game. You can run the open balls, and then I know that I'm going to have my last 3.
So 12-9 break ball.
I didn't climb over my cue. And now you got your break, and then practice breaking and racking them up. Okay, 4 rails. I had a guy slop a 4-railer in on me in a game one time. He missed the break ball 4-rail that ran out on me. But no, seriously. So guys, what I just did. Now you can't do that when the balls are tied up. When you still have problems to solve, by all means, solve your problems strategically. But once the balls are spread, don't burn up your energy and go into like analysis paralysis. Pick your key ball, your break ball, your key ball, your key ball, your key ball. Freewheel through those suckers with precision. But then and set up 3 balls in a good spot. Set up a bunch of other balls and practice running the open balls and then running those last 3. And then racking and breaking. If you practice those things, you'll find straight pool will start to come easier.
Well, see, I'm going to have to implement that because if you watch my Run Your Age Straight Pool Challenge video, I eventually identified my key break ball, and I try to construct a pattern to make sure, but I don't even consider like the ball before the break ball until I get there, or let alone the ball that gets me on the ball before. So that's definitely a principle that I'm going to have to try to incorporate into my game to see if I can get back there.
One warning, guys. This 15 ball is a terrible key ball. People always think it looks good because if you get right here, you can shoot a stop shot, you're perfect. So they see that and they're like, oh, that's a great key ball. But the problem is unless you have a key ball that gets you on the key, that's fine. You have a ball hanging here. But if you don't, the problem is you don't get right here, you end up getting here. Now it's really hard. You're going to have to go to the end rail back. Or now you get here, and it's even worse. This side pocket, this thing's a trap. This, great key ball. miss, horrible key ball. The problem with the side pocket shot is that unless you're dead straight, you're going to have to go to a rail. There's no way to use side spin to control your cue ball path because the nearest rail is 4 feet away. It's a terrible key ball. Don't fall for it. Sorry. It's like when people split up in a horror movie. I can't watch it when people save that side pocket shot.
All right, I think we have one more question, and I think we're going to call it a night from here. And I'm not exactly sure how to answer this, so I'm going to state the question, and let's see if you get it to possibly answer it. So this is from the Grimm perspective, Corey Grimm. Is the pocket dimension where it is the most narrow or tip to tip? I'm not exactly sure. I'm not exactly sure how he's.
I don't care. You know all this. Okay, I'm sorry, Corey. Good question. I don't know the answer. There's all these people that measure all this stuff, and usually there's these purists and these people that are really elitist with their attitudes towards tight pockets. I don't know. I just know that there's a pool table, there's a pocket, you got to make the ball. So I don't want to end with that question because it's kind of like anything that channels up under equipment. I just run the balls.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm sorry, Corey, it's a fine question. I'm not making fun of you. I just don't know the answer.
The simplest thing I can always say, when it comes to pocket dimensions, 4.5 versus 4 3/4 versus 4 1/4 versus 4, yada yada yada. Someone said something to me, I think it was a year ago, that just it never resonated with me, or it never even crossed my mind until I heard it. And then I was like, you couldn't be any more right. The size of the pockets does not matter if you're always aiming for the heart of the pocket. Now, having said that, though, you can always try to aim for the heart of the pocket, but you end up making the ball, even though you thought you were aiming for the heart of the pocket, but you didn't make it in the heart of the pocket. So, for example, there have been plenty of times where I've ran a table, but during the course of my run out, you can see this disgruntled look on my face, like, how could I be disgruntled? I ran the table. And I've mentioned this during my Texas State Open matches videos where if I see a ball that I'm trying to make go down a rail, if I contact the rail and the ball goes in, of course I'm happy that I made the ball. But I'm not happy that my ball contacted the rail and then went in. Because if that pocket was tighter, I miss, period. And then most likely I probably lose the game.
You know who else had that attitude? Mosconi, I don't remember if it was in his autobiography, but he wrote the same thing when he cut balls down the rail. If he ever scraped the rail, he was really upset with himself.
Oh, yeah, because I would rather catch the inside jaw of the pocket and have the ball go in than to catch the rail and have it go in. So when I thought about aiming for the heart of the pocket, it doesn't matter what the size is. I couldn't have agreed more. Like the moment, it was like an epiphany moment. And then that forced me to have more of a strict attitude of I'm trying to run the table, and of course if I run the table, great, I won the match, but if there's any of those moments where I'm cutting a ball that's coming down the rail, if I catch the rail and the ball bobbles its way in, of course I'm happy that I made the shot, but I'm not happy that I actually caught the rail. I would rather not catch the rail. So what I try to make sure now is not get spoiled by bigger pockets, because even though I made it, I know for a fact that if it was a smaller pocket, I missed it. So the benefits of smaller pockets, or the pocket reducer that Demetrius showed earlier, is now it forces you to be accurate, which is a good thing to do. You don't want to get spoiled by, oh, I'm able to always cheat the pocket kind of thing, because there's going to be that moment in time you get on the wrong table and you just can't do it. So it's a matter of personal preference. Do you want to be hard on yourselves on big pockets to where, of course you can be thankful that you made the ball, but you railed the ball in, and just be hard on yourself and make sure that you do better next time, or have those tighter pockets and just know that it's going to be a lot more difficult to make the ball, and then you are going to get frustrated when you do miss versus, having a bigger pocket and it might go in. So, at the time right now, my pockets on my 8-foot table are currently 4.5 by 5. When my table does get refelted, I am shimming them to 4 1/4 and 4.5. So I'm going to be forced now to be more accurate. And then when I do go play on 4.5s and 5s, I think it's going to be a whole lot easier for me, because at the end of the day, I'm still always going to be aiming at the heart of the pocket.
And I also told Chris, we were talking about it, he doesn't really have room for a 9-foot in his garage. So I gave Chris a piece of advice. And for anybody that has a 7,
yes, I love this advice.
For anybody that has a 7 or 8-foot table that wants to get, that wants to train, you can shim your pockets, that's fine. But what's even better is playing with no side pockets. Try practicing, whether it's, whatever level that rotation goes, if you play 5-ball goes, 9-ball goes, whatever. Try playing with no side pockets. And even though if you're playing on a 7 or an 8-foot table, it'll make that game play probably similar in difficulty to a 9-foot table, and it'll force you to develop skills in terms of cue ball and patterns that you would need on a 9-footer that you might not be forced to develop on a 7 or 8-foot. So.
Yeah, and that's a variation that I'm definitely going to try. I like this next question that I think both of us can answer, and this is from TBZ. It says he notices that we spend, or I don't know if he's directing this question, but I'm gonna ask it as he's directing it towards both of us. That we spend a lot of time in our pre-shot routine getting grounded and loose. Is this intentional or just a result of your process? So my answer is it's intentional because it's how I try to carry myself through my pre-shot routine. And every once in a while, because I'm a human being with emotions, and depending upon the process of the match and whether I'm winning or losing, that the consistency can get thrown out of whack. But for me, like if you've seen any of my virtual matches that I've done on Bank Time Pool, because I have this headpiece on, you can hear my breathing. You can hear me kind of talk and mutter to myself. And the best part about pool is that players like Demetrius or players like myself, depending upon where you are in the hierarchy, like if you're below me, you're going to think I make this game look easy. And if you look at a player like Demetrius or someone that's higher, you're going to think the game is even easier. I think that's a double negative or something, because of the way we can maneuver the cue ball. But what you don't realize is how difficult and how hard it is to make this game look easy. So my pre-shot routine is always pretty much to the point where, like, you might think I'm making all these easy shots, but if there's ever a point in time where you can hear my breathing, like in the virtual matches, if you ever see me do a shot, walk over to the next shot, and you hear me go, and just take this big, deep breath, that's because my previous shot was harder than it looked. And that forces my pre-shot routine to slow down and then catch back up into the consistency rhythm, because it's not like what I think what we saw like in your last rack where people thought like you were rushing through your pre-shot routine, and that could be, in my opinion, due to adrenaline rush. Like you're in the zone, so like your pre-shot routine instantly speeds up, and if you recognize it, you can catch it and slow it back down. So long story short, my pre-shot routine I think is rather long because I intentionally make it that long, and then sometimes I can openly admit that if I catch a rhythm, then I get into the dead stroke mode to where like my pre-shot routine will get cut in half because I'm now at a point where I'm just willy-nilly knocking the balls in, but the cue ball is doing exactly what I want it to do. But then other times, my pre-shot routine can get halfway slower because I'm doing these one-heart shots after another, but I'm making them look easy as I'm transitioning from one heart shot to another until I eventually land back in line, and then my pre-shot routine goes back to being normal.
Yeah, and one thing I'd say is, even though I started playing quicker, it wasn't too quick. The answer is, did I go through the steps I needed to? What I would say is, when you leave your house, I don't know about you, but I use a 3-point check: wallet, cell phone, keys. I make sure I have my wallet, my cell phone, and my keys before I jump on my car and go anywhere. How long does that take? Well, here's the thing. If I lose my keys, then I get my wallet, my cell phone, and I have to look for my keys. If I have my wallet and my keys and I can't find my cell phone, then I got to find my cell phone. So if somebody's like, well, how long does it take you before you jump in your car and leave? Well, if I can find my wallet, my cell phone, and my keys, it doesn't take that long. If I lose one of them, I'll take as long as I need to find it. That analogy means two things. One, a pre-shot routine for me is accomplishing a set number of things that you need to do before you're ready to shoot. And if you know where if those things don't take you any time, then do it and then shoot. What happens for me? What are some of the things I do during my pre-shot routine? Well, I make a committed decision as to what shot I'm going to shoot, how it should look, how I'm going to hit it. Commit to the shot. But then the other thing I do that you don't see is I handle any negative thoughts. Because if you guys didn't see this, I was very nervous at the start of the match. And there was a couple things that bothered me. And so I had to deal with some things that were a little bit, some things that were a little turbulent. And so I was very nervous. And so it's not that I don't get nervous. I get nervous when I compete. And I can play bad and I can dog it. What happens, though, is there's two schools of thought on mental game. One thought is, mental game, I don't really believe in that. You shoot a bit and I don't get nervous and all this. And people try to steamroll through it. I don't believe in that school. I And I want you guys to check out, if you haven't already, go to my YouTube channel and look up the videos. I have part 1 and 2 on how to deal with mental adversity. It is so important. I'm very, very confident that you guys saw I struggled with some stuff on the pool table. I'm not Earl Strickland, but I can yet sometimes be very competitive. It's approach. So what I do is I face my mental fears and doubts. And when those things attack me, I don't just get down and shoot. I sit with them and I look at them and I face them in my own way, which I'm not going to go into right now. I've got other stuff and I can talk to you guys offline. But I face those doubts and fears before I shoot, instead of pretending that they're not there and getting upset that they derail me, like, oh, I don't understand why I missed it. So in the beginning of the match, when I have a lot of doubts and fears, I sometimes play a little deliberately, and I sometimes am succumbing to those doubts and fears because I'm settling in and I'm still nervous and I'm really struggling. And then it's like I get into a rhythm of overcoming those thoughts and letting go of those thoughts and turning back the process and building confidence and feel on the table, then I have less attacks from less thoughts. And so it's almost like my analogy. Now I know where my keys and cell phone and wallet are. I don't have to mess around. I can just hit the road.
Awesome. Well, you know what? I think that was the last of the questions. We have now been streaming for 3 hours and 36 minutes. So, yes, this has been a lot of fun. Demetrius, thanks for the match. I gave you what I thought was my best, but I have things to work on.
I just want to say thanks to a couple people. Hawaiian, I call him Hawaiian Brian. It's not Hawaiian Brian. Surfer Brian, surfer guy. Thank you very much for coming out. And if you want to add anything to the chat to encourage others or tell about your experience or warn them about how crazy I am, you can do that. I want to thank Tango, Ruben, the guys that all the people with questions. Justin, I didn't mean to dog your question about, or Corey or whatever, about the pockets. I'm sorry. Thank you for your participation. Thanks for joining us. This is new to me. The idea that anybody would care about anything I do or say is very, very generous. And for you that made donations of any amount, it's very touching and it means a lot to me. So just thank you guys for tuning in, and maybe I'll get a chance to see you guys.
Absolutely, because with Demetrius training me on the table, I'm training him on technology. So we're hopefully going to start seeing some YouTube content from him. You know, you might see small pearls of wisdom from his boot camp. You won't see any of his trade secrets because that's what's supposed to entice you to come out and actually take his boot camp. You know, so I'm at least helping him how to get that off the ground as far as making videos, you know, streaming content, etc., etc. But as always, this has been just a boatload of fun. I've thoroughly enjoyed my time out here. I have learned some things, but like I said before, it's up to me to maintain/retain and implement these things that I'm learning once I get back home, when Demetrius is not always over my shoulder to constantly remind me, like, you forgot to do this or you forgot to do that, etc., etc. So, for the 69/70 some odd viewers that have stuck around here to the end, thank you so much for being here. I think we peaked at about 190 some odd viewers during the match, which I think is absolutely amazing. That is a new record for me. We are now in the year 2021. Let's definitely hope that it's going to be better than 2020 was. So, good night to everybody. Happy New Year. And as always, take care.